And we want to apologize for the technical difficulties that we had before. But joining us now to talk more about the ousting of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, Miles Taylor, former DHS Chief of Staff in President Trump's first term, and Tarini Parti, politics reporter for the Wall Street Journal. So, well, Miles, actually, I'm going to start with you by quoting Tarini.
That's fair.
Her story in the Wall Street Journal on Thursday. Trump ousts Kristi Noem from DHS for at least a week. President Trump told White House advisors that he was tired of the infighting and drama at the Department of Homeland Security. But after Secretary Noem's congressional testimony Tuesday, Trump sped up his timeline, according to people familiar with thinking. Noem's top advisor, Corey Lewandowski, tried to calm the president down in a White House meeting, the people said, but the last-ditch effort to save Noem's job failed. Are you surprised by any of this?
No, and it's a really remarkable thing to say that he's tired of the drama at DHS. Everything happening at the department, I mean this, is because of Donald Trump right now. This is exactly the department he always wanted. This is the department he wanted us to build when I was at DHS in his first term, a department willing to politicize every single component agency. Now, I don't say that just because I don't like Trump. It's because it's objectively true. Whether it's dispatching the Secret Service to go after his political enemies, surveilling James Comey, going after Marjorie Taylor Greene, to taking FEMA money and withholding it from blue states and only giving it to red states, every component of that department has been politicized at the president's demand. Kristi Noem, if you could say one thing of her biggest fault is that she's done everything that Donald Trump wanted. The drama inside the Department of Homeland Security is his doing. And Jonathan, I think the big story here is that all of this is happening with the backdrop of a war that the Department of Homeland Security should be playing defense on. And Donald Trump, by all accounts, did not task the Department of Homeland Security with preparing for the war against Iran. This week, they have withheld official threat statements telling state and locals to be worried about and prepare for the possibility of terrorist attacks. Now the department's going to be in weeks of turmoil in probably the most important moment it's ever had to protect Americans against attacks.
And the one thing you left out is DHS is shut down.
That's right.
We keep forgetting that there's a partial government shutdown.
And it doesn't look it's ending anytime soon. Donald Trump has had many made-up peace awards. He gave her a made-up job, special envoy to the Shield of Americas, if people want to know. But her replacement, Markwayne Mullin, senator of Oklahoma. Let's pull up element one that has his background. He's a senator. He was sworn in 2023, former congressman for 10 years, rancher, business owner, no law enforcement experience to speak of. And for folks that are watching Secretary Noem get ousted and saying, well, maybe things will change, let's listen to Markwayne Mullin on immigration.
President Trump says a lot of stuff, and we all support it. But it's like, okay, what's the details on this? So what does that actually look like? I don't think he can actually exile an American citizen. I know he can an illegal.
If they actually required you to have a judicial warrant on every individual you picked up that was here illegally, the entire country would become a sanctuary city.
Should those babies be deported, Senator, with their parents? Are you saying those babies should be deported with their parents?
Well, they should go where their parents are. Why wouldn't you send a child with their parents?
You think Omar really loves our country?
No.
She doesn't love our country. She wants to change our country. And You're going, okay, well, if you go back to where you came from then.
So it sounds very similar to what we've been hearing from this administration, so it doesn't appear that anything's actually going to change here.
There might not be changes in policy, and I thought I was telling my colleagues, and I talked to a lot of people inside the department when he was announced, and they all were sort of celebrating. They were high-fiving in the hallways. They were excited that Kristi Noem was finally gone, and then sort of the realization hit that this might not be so different. And there's so much uncertainty around how he might actually run this department. The thing to keep in mind is it's not just immigration policy, as Miles pointed out. It is a sprawling department that does so much for the government. And a lot of these career officials just want someone competent. They don't want to be berated every day by Corey Lewandowski. They don't want the chaos and kind of not knowing whether they're doing what they're doing, if they're doing it right, if they're going to get fired or put on administrative leave the next day. So in that sense, there's some hope that there might be some, little bit lack of chaos in some ways. But in terms of policy, it's going to be a similar thing where Stephen Miller, the White House, is dictating a lot of the policies. And then, the hope is that Mullen would listen to career officials, longtime ICE officials, CBP officials in enacting that policy. And also perhaps take a less headline-grabbing approach, not be sort of the star of the show, not create a spectacle of immigration enforcement.
Baby, let me never be unpopular enough for people to be high-fiving in the hallways if I get fired. Oh, my God, that is so embarrassing. Oh, that's terrible.
Trina, actually, I want to stick with you for a second about some of your reporting and something that Miles mentioned, which is that this job is now more important than ever since we are in a war. You had some great reporting on Inspector General's investigations into Nome and the ways that she has made the country less safe. Can you talk a little bit about that and whether or not you think that Markwayne Mullen is now qualified to be that person to ensure that we don't have another 9/11-esque situation on our hands?
That's right. We reported that the Inspector General has said that Kristi Noem was systematically obstructing several investigations that they were doing, including one that was a criminal investigation with national security implications. The Inspector General said he found that one to be, quote, particularly egregious. We don't know the details of that. But we know that she was doing everything she could to block these investigations. Another security concern that was raised was a TSA policy that she did. She came up with, the shoes off policy that was very popular with passengers. But the Inspector General said it created a security vulnerability, and they were trying to talk to Kristi Noem about this for months, and they claimed they were ignored and finally had to go to Congress as of February because they were so concerned about this. So the department does so many things, and there's so many concerns here. And one of the things I heard from officials repeatedly was that they felt the secretary was downplaying or at times completely ignoring national security concerns.
Miles, do you think that Markwayne Mullen is equipped to kind of pick up the pieces here and make sure we have a robust domestic national security apparatus during this time?
Yeah, that's not a rhetorical question.
Nope. Look, Kristi Noem's qualification was that she was willing to lick Donald Trump's boot. And Markwayne Mullen's qualification is he's willing to lick them clean. And I say that, having worked in Congress when the guy was there.
It is 8:18 in the morning, Miles.
But he's got a more than perfect voting record with Donald Trump. He will do whatever the president wants. And so if the president's worried about drama inside the Department of Homeland Security, he's going to continue to get it because he's the one that's spreading that drama into that department. He's bringing on someone that's willing to continue it. And again, we're doing this in the middle of a war. This is like in a Super Bowl game deciding to fire your defensive team. What? You're not going to win that game. In fact, you're going to put the whole franchise in jeopardy, except this isn't a franchise. It's the United States of America. He's putting the country in danger. And I'll tell you, in the first term, when something like this almost happened, I remember we were worried about war with North Korea, and Defense Secretary Jim Mattis said to us after a Situation Room meeting, be prepared to go to war. And we did. We did exercises worried that the Department of Homeland Security would get embroiled in a nuclear war because the president was a senile sociopath with his finger on the nuclear button. Thankfully, we didn't. I don't think that planning has happened in this department. And Markwayne Mullen, I don't want him to be Secretary of Homeland Security, but they should be preparing him for this job now because we are at war.
It's only 19 seconds. This is element 4. Just to the drama that's about to come to the department. This is a conversation back and forth between the president of the Teamsters and Markwayne Mullen, just so y'all know who's about to go.
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every poll?
No, sit down. Sit down. Look at you. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Allegedly, these grown men. Tarini, Marty, thank you very much. I'm not even going to ask you that.
At least they use PG-13 language.
For now.
Stand your butt up.
Miles Taylor, you're staying with us.